We're doing a review of the final part, well, not the final, but close to the final part of the landscape that you need to do for your Haunted Mansion. Now, this needs to be a short little trail, short little walk, short little trek through your landscape. Not long at all, and then up to your house. And the key to this is you have to hide all the area of the edges of the landscape. We're not making an indefinite, endless landscape. We're making a very finite landscape, and we want it to look like it's indefinite, but it's going to be a very finite area. So we have to conceal or make sure that our view doesn't show the edges of our landscape so people can see that. So it has to look bigger than it is. And so we're going to do some stuff here to figure that out. So here's some examples. You could go up a hill. That way your view is completely not looking at the edges or down at them to your house. Okay, or you can go through some hills or ravines or canyons. Down into a gorge or up against a cliff. All kinds of different ways to conceal that. So just a short trek, this is perfect example right here, to your house, okay? But make sure you don't see the edges of the house, of the landscape. So how do we do this landscape? Well, I'll tell you. Let's go look at one that's already done. Then we're going to put some fog on it because we have to make the landscape look good. So here's another example of animating through the landscape. Up a hill, we don't see the edges at all. Okay, there's our house. So to do the landscape, you're going to go, you do this on a new file. You'll have to copy your house and scale it down in the gate. Remember, you need a spot for your gate as well. Landscapes are found under your primitives, landscape. And when you work with those, we don't want to make it too much bigger than it naturally is. Something like this would be perfect. Here's a default size in comparison. So don't make it too much bigger than this bottom one here. Kind of work with just the default scale size. We can't really use it the way that it is right now, but with the landscape, you have options in the attributes over here, and you can play with the little scale tool here to size it, and then you can go to the rough and fine furrows, and you can roughen it up, or you can smoothen it up. It's going to get a little rough and tumble there when you're seeing basically the vertices of the polygons or the segments. Vertices are these little parts where they come together. Don't worry about that. We're going to smoothen it out and subdivide it when we sculpt it. Let's go back to grout shading. So you just have to kind of get it, generally speaking, like a good place to start. You also have the scale of the pieces, and then most importantly the sea level and the plateau level of those pieces. Excuse me, I don't mean to keep clicking on. There we go. I don't really want my pieces to be so sharp, so I'm going to go to rough and fine furrows and try to smoothen them out. Okay, and then we have the plateau level. Now, something like this would be like you'd find that in some unique parts of Africa or maybe even China, but we're not going to do that here. Although some people might take something like this and build like a staircase going up the cliff and a bridge crossing the gorge and then over to one of the plateau levels, and you certainly from up at that point perspective wouldn't see, you know, the edges of your landscape. And this is what I'm talking about, these square edges. We can't see these at all, okay? But I wouldn't do my landscape like this. I'd bring it down a little bit shorter and work with it like this way, and you kind of like, I already have like a natural path here. I can kind of like look at this and see like what potential does this have, okay? And so I can play with my plateau level, make it a little bit less, maybe just some rolling hills might be nice. It might be nice to have some different details here. And so you can just like play with it and get all kinds of different results. Okay, and then you also have the orientation, which right here, you can flip it. So it becomes, this is great for making like ponds and lakes and stuff like that. You basically would just take a plane and then that would become, you would make a watery surface and that would become your lake or your pond. But you can also flip it this way like I'm doing now. You can change the seed right here to alter and dramatically, you know, change it. So like here I have some nice little natural canyons that if we were animating down here on this level through these areas, I'm not going to see the edges at all, you know. So it's up to you on how you you want to fix that. I'm going to put it back to positive Y. And so I kind of like some of this. Let's see if I can alter the seed a little bit and get it to be a little bit nicer. So I kind of like this natural path right here. And then what I could do is put my house back here, or I can sculpt through. Now, you're not going to get it perfect, okay? You just have to kind of get it sort of the way you think you want to get it. Like, do your best to get it like halfway there, quarter of the way there, whatever. Once you've done that, you're going to convert this into a polygon. So I clicked on my tool. Remember, to convert stuff to polygons, you could just go to mesh, conversion, current state to object, make editable, or click on the little spheres tool over here. It has the same icon as that, so they do the same thing. Eventually we're going to start using the new version of Cinema, and they've moved the meat around, or the food around on the plate. So some of these things are no longer in the same spots, but they're all still there. And I'll eventually, those of you that will be using the new version of Cinema next year, I will do newer videos and stuff like that. Right now we're on version 20. This was the one version before they started going cloud, and I prefer this version because you can actually own the software and use it. You don't have to have this lease that lasts, you know, a limited time and then runs out, and then you don't have the software available anymore. So this was the good old days when you can buy the software and you had like an unlimited license to use it as long as you wanted, but not anymore. Now everything's cloud, meaning that you download it from the internet, it has to be connected to the internet, and it gives you a finite amount of time to use it, and then like a subscription, it shuts you off when you no longer are doing that. So it's kind of a pain in the ass, and I don't know, that's why I didn't do that in class, but I kind of have to now. So anyways, kind of went off on a tangent there. What do we do? So we convert this to a polygon. It's a polygon landscape now. And now we're going to go to sculpt. So where it says layout, where you have these different things that you can do for rigging and animating and whatever, these different UIs, user interface, UIs. They used to call it GUIs, GUIs, graphic user interface, but now it's just UI. We're going to go to sculpt, and that opens up a new menu. And you can only do this if you've converted it into a polygon. It won't work unless you have. You can get back by going to standard sculpt, okay? First thing you want to do is subdivide this. So I'm going to put it on ground shading lines so we can see the vertices and the polygons and the segments. When you go to subdivide, it will double that. Now, ZBrush is preferable to do landscapes like this. And we will work our way towards ZBrush. This is a little bit more primitive and simpler, so we're going to learn it here first. And the other softwares do it, like 3D ones like Maya and Blender, and a lot of them have like a capability of doing a sculpting type of thing. But ZBrush does it best, and that's why it's the industry standard. And the way that ZBrush does it, and no one else can do it. But Maxon owns ZBrush now, so I don't know if they'll keep this sculpting around much longer, or eventually it'll just, they'll incorporate ZBrush into this or that into that, or whatever, what will happen. But subdivide is what you want to do. But what you don't want to do is subdivide it at once, twice, 3 times. You don't really want to do it more than 3, or you're going to end up with too many polygons on this. You can see there's my polygon count. It's 200,000. That actually is relatively low compared to what some people do in ZBrush. But ZBrush is able to handle that, and so for some reason, because the way that they've programmed it in and the way the code works, but other softwares just can't really do all that well with that. And they'll slow down unless you have a computer really souped up for 3D modeling. And these iMacs are good, but they're not, that super bitchin' to be able to do that. All right, now once you've done that, you have all these tools here. When you click on a tool, it has mostly a size and a pressure. So if you wanted to use your Wacom tablet is pressure sensitive, meaning that if you press harder on it, it apply more pressure, it does more. Or if you do have a dainty light touch, then it does less. So you have a size of the tool, this little flat thing that kind of follows the contour of your landscape, which is neat how it kind of like follows those angles. You see how it like turns. And then you have this tool over here where you can get like fine detail or like a big amount of detail, and then a pressure and how much it's going to affect it. So I'm on pull. Let's do knife instead. So with knife, I can kind of go in there and cut through it, and that's my pressure at 20%. If I put the pressure up to 60%, it's much more extreme. 100%, well, I'm not quite there, am I? Let's do 100%. Going backwards. Can't see the end of that. I mean, so you can go over 100%. It's like zoom, and really, gets in there and gets it. So what you can do here is you can get in there and you can kind of scrape away at it. You can erase what you did, which is kind of neat. That's one of the coolest tools for sculpting in here, is the erase tool. So like you can go in there and do all this stuff and be like, oh no, I ruined it. You can go to erase and kind of fix it. Flayed is nice because you can kind of like accent like hills a little bit better. What I would start with is, I'm going to put it back on normal ground shading, is I would start concealing the edges. So you can do pull, and like you're going to have to, let's bring it up. You're going to have to adjust your view. Okay, so you can kind of like start pulling up the edges. And the reason I would do that is, excuse me, I would do that to like conceal the edges. Okay, and you can see how it's kind of slow. And like, let's undo all that. I'm gonna go back. That's why I did it 3 times. I normally don't subdivide it that much. So you can decrease the subdivision if you want. All right, so back here you want to make sure you convert it. There's a sculpting tag that'll go on it. And then when you do go to sculpt, you can decrease or increase the subdivision. I did it like that, and I think that's too much, to be honest, for me, because I just want to get in here and quickly do that. And I can decrease it and do that a little bit flatter too. You also have grab, which is a little bit easier. I can increase it and still grab. So what am I doing? I'm creating kind of a little mountain range. I'm doing this just so because it'll be instant F for you if I see the freaking edge. So you want to be sure that because there's always some lazy kid who'll be like, I don't care. So you conceal your edges. I don't want to see them. Okay, there's nothing like doing a great animation job, really setting up your environment, having your fog super awesome, it's spooky, it's haunted. You did an amazing job on your house. You even, everything's like all your ducks are, everything's falling in place. And then some like lazy kid was just like, oh, screw it. And you see the edges of the landscape floating around, or things are not proportionate. It just kills it. Okay, so we're kind of just going for rolling hills here. I'm not asking you to do the Rockies or the Alps or the Andes Mountains or Kilimanjaro or something. You just, let's just hide the edges. So, because we're going to be animating down there on the ground at like eye or animal level for our camera, and we just want to hide those edges. Okay, and then after you've done that, then you can, go to pull, and there's a few other options here that you can play with. There's even like a neat fall off and stuff. You can kind of like do some of this other stuff a little bit later. There's a symmetry, so I can, if I was sculpting a creature, I can turn on a symmetry so that it gets both sides. So you see how like I'm doing that like there. So I could have done both edges at the same time. Okay, with the symmetry. There's a lot more to this than meets the eye, basically. So we're just kind of starting off real basic. Size and pressure, that's your main thing right now. Size for the brush and the pressure if you're using your stylus. If you're not using a stylus, pressure will just increase the strength and be like a uniform strength. Okay. All right, after I've done that, I'm gonna go and put on knife. This is the best one to kind of get in there and carve little paths and stuff too. So I have to kind of look at this and see, all right, where am I going here with this? So I think I want to, maybe I'll place my gate right here. I'll start my animation right there, and I'll kind of walk around the corner, and then we'll take our house after it passes through the gate, and we'll go over to where would be a good spot to go? Maybe right here. So I'm going to flatten this area out. And you can scrape it. Need a flat area to put in my haunted forest, and I can kind of bring some of it back over here, very inflating. You can, if you feel like, oh no, I went too far, you can erase, and erase will bring it all back. Okay, I don't want to erase them. So I'm just kind of creating, I could go in there with my knife tool, and if I needed to cut like a stairwell up a hill, I could do that. So like if I really got in here, and I might like increase if I was doing that, make it a really small brush, and I can kind of like cut the stairs in that, or I can cut up a trail. I don't want to be on that high of a pressure. I can go to smooth afterwards, and smoothing out the rough edges. I could go to erase the mistakes. Okay, and you can, you could do all kinds of, and then so, like that would be like the beginning of a little trail. I go to flatten, use like a little itty bitty brush, and kind of flatten it that way, okay? And really, I gotta work it more than I'm doing it, but I kind of want to go with the natural, like here's a natural like little flat area. That would be perfect to just continue that up to the cliff or whatever. All right, so I'm gonna animate like this. So this is my plan. So if you're wondering like, where are you going with all this? I would start here and then kind of move around the corner. And then this would be my view. Place a few dead trees, maybe a skull, a couple of rocks, maybe a fallen tree. Go through my gate, which would be right here. And then I'll place my house and my forest over here on this little area. So I kind of have to chisel that away a little bit more because it's kind of at an angle. So like I said, you could go to your knife tool and you just have to sculpt. If your knife tool is bigger, you'll create a bigger indentation. Go to flatten. Just all these different tools, wax, build up, grab can pull down as well. I do want a flatter area for my house though, So there'll be my view. I'll go through my little gorge. So I'm kind of like setting up a repeat of this one. Just because I'm being repetitious. So there's my gate, through my gate, and then over to the house, okay? So you don't need it to be too cliffy and rocky and ravine-y. I mean, you can if you want to, like, take the time to do something like that. Anything goes on this. You can go back to sculpt at any time and sculpt it some more. I can also, like if I got too resolution-y, let's go to display and you can kind of see it. If you feel like, oh my God, like I can't, it's so black because I put so many polygons in there. Like I have almost 1 million polygons. You could decrease it at what you've sculpted, which is kind of cool. And then like kind of simplify it and make it lesser. So now I'm at 13,000 instead of a million. And I got the detail kind of in there the way that I wanted. I might want to flatten this part a little bit more, or try to smooth it over. I can increase it again if I want to do that, and then go back to decrease it and see what like the detail looks like on it then. Okay, and this so you know, the fewer polygons you have, the quicker and more faster and more efficiently and all that, it's gonna process and work for you, and when you render and just while you're doing everything else, if you have if you increase it too high, this slows it down a lot. Okay, so you might do your work, like your details, with a higher res and then decrease it when you're done. Now when you're done, you feel like you've sculpted it. Like I said, remember the knife tool is really good for cutting in. Like if I wanted to cut like a path through like right here, I could easily go in there with my knife tool and sort of like, you want to cut like sort of sides like that. And then you would go to, let's increase it a little bit. And then you would go to your flatten, make it smaller, and you can kind of like, you can see how I could cut like a road through there. All right, but that wasn't my plan. I kind of went with the natural terrain as it was and worked with what was already there. Okay. I want to flatten it in there a little bit. And if you need to build up some material in order to do that, it's not the perfect sculpting tool, but it's not half bad. It's not half bad at all. And eventually we'll go into ZBrush and learn it there, and you'll be like, oh, that's much better. But this is a good like kind of stepping stone into that. Kind of looking at the angle there, make sure it is flat. Okay, so when you're done, you're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna decrease it a little bit so it'll be faster for me to work with it. And then we're gonna go back to standard mode over here to the side. And we want to get rid of this tag. We don't want to have the sculpting tag on it. But be warned, once you get rid of the sculpting tag, you can never go back and sculpt it again with these settings. You can add a new tag to it and re-sculpt it, but it's already going to be sculpted and set in stone. So what I'm going to do next is something that you might, they used to do what we call be baking this into it, but we're not going to do that. I'm just going to take the landscape and do a current state to object, and that'll convert it, or basically essentially bake it in there for us, really, so that I don't have to use the one over here with the tag on it, which will suck out all the memory of your computer. All right. Next phase of the operation is we're going to animate. You're going to have to bring in your house, okay, and bring in your gate. So I don't really have a finished house here, but I could kind of grab this house. All right, so I would take and select all, Command A on your keyboard, and then do a group objects, rename it house, cut that out, go to my new landscape, paste it in. It's going to be massive. You're going to go to your scaling tool, scale it down. It's clearly facing the wrong way. All right, and find a decent spot for it. I don't know where that would be, maybe over here. My ground's not very level, so I'm having issues. So that's why you want to make your ground as level as possible. So I just need to find a level section here, because I didn't really do a very good job on my landscape. And where none of the house is floating around, that'll do. And then I can surround it with trees. Do I have any dead trees? I do. Let's just take that one. So we'll copy the dead tree after you made your dead trees, of course, and then we'll paste it in there. And you can see it's like super massive. World tree from Norse mythology. What do they call that? It starts with a Y or something. Riddle, that's the name. Anyways, we'll take that tree, and like I said, if you do a good enough job on your trees, you can copy and paste that tree multiple times and set up your dead spooky forest. So you don't just copy and paste the tree, because then it looks like the same tree. You take it and you rotate it around the opposite direction so it looks like a different tree. And you can almost fill up an entire forest full of trees. So you're going to need to place a lot of copies of trees all over the place. And then any other props you made, a skull, a rock, a dead tree, well, these are kind of dead, a tree that's fallen over, all that kind of stuff. Okay, and then you're going to have to go get your gate, put that in a null object, rename it gate, copy it, go to window, paste in your gate. It's going to be massive. You're going to scale it way down and find a good spot for your gate. Rotate it. And when I scaled mine down, I kind of messed it up there. When you scale it, don't touch the axes, just click off to the side. And that way you'll keep it all uniform and it won't, anything that weird in it, like a bool or whatever, won't get wrecked. Alright, so there's my gate, and the next phase will be to create the animation and the fog and the moonlight, which will be in the next lesson that I review and put up there. But that's essentially your landscape. I did a sloppy quickie job because I don't have all day to do like these review videos, but that's basically what you're doing at this point, is setting up your scene, your landscape, okay? You can't just have dead trees. So I'm gonna show you how to do like some rocks and some skulls and stuff like that. And you can actually, we're gonna do it in the same sculpting thing. In fact, I could show a little here. If we go to a new file, I'm just going to start with a sphere, and I'll give it more segments, and then we'll convert it to a polygon sphere, and then we will go to sculpting. All right, and then with the sphere, to do like a skull, we're going to have to get in there and work with this round shape. So the first thing we should probably do with the skull is start, first let's get let's subdivide it. All right, and that'd probably work. We could probably subdivide it again, but and we're going to go to pull out the obvious features of a skull. So that means that we need to go in with, and this would be way better to do a skull and really easier in ZBrush, but we're going to kind of try to do it here a little bit. And I might be crashing if I don't be really careful. So a skull has like some eye ridges, okay, and then it's going to have a jawbone. So we're just going to inflate this area. And then if you screw it up, you can go to erase. And we can go to flatten. I'm kind of just winging it here. Like I said, ZBrush would be the one to do this in. And then we'll go to inflate again, make our tool small, and we'll, it's too small. There we go. And we'll inflate out some cheekbones. Some teeth. I don't really have the resolution, so we'll subdivide it again. We don't need it to be that detailed because we're not going to sit there and like stare at it. You can put just a face on a boulder too if you wanted to. So you see how I have to keep going over here and getting a bigger brush. And then like we can't have this lower part here, so we're gonna have to flatten that. We're gonna just make do with the tools that we have. Okay, it's looking a little apish, so we're gonna get grab. Start working on, I just added I'm gonna bring these details back, but I just kind of added them to give us something to work with. Tool's not big enough. I don't know if I have time to do a complete skull really quickly. I might continue this in a part 2 and work on the rest. We're going to sink that into the ground, so I don't really care about that. Alright, and then we want to bring out those cheekbones. I want to go to flatten. And we're going to bring in the sides of the head a little bit. Skulls are kind of flat on the side. Flatten the front of the face there. I'm kind of rushing through this, but you'll kind of get the idea. Alright, let's do some more grab. Bring out those cheekbones again. Bring out the lower jaw, which we're just going to have it connected. The lower jawbone isn't connected and often falls off. And then you have like a skull that has like the missing part of the lower jaw. And then grab can also be used to, if you got a big enough tool, you can kind of just like push it in. So I'm just kind of like shaping up the general shape of the skull here. Of course, I'm being really sloppy because I would take more time to do this, typically. Alright, and then we'll do a little bit more inflating. Pop back out those cheekbones. And those eye socket ridges. Then I want to give him a nose. Oops. Gotta be careful. Don't spill over. Tool. I think I probably pulled the jaw down a little bit too far, so I'm going to move that back up. Okay. If our skull was made of wax and melted, that would be perfect. But we're going to go in there and we're going to carve up some teeth. Or I might just inflate them out. Small brushes. You gotta have the resolution. That's why ZBrush is so much better at this kind of stuff. We'd already be done in ZBrush. But I want to show you other methods, so. And then we'll go to our knife tool. Start carving out the sockets. The nose. And even around the teeth. Divide it again. And then little by little, our skull starts taking shape into a same idea skull. It's going to be on the ground and small. You can do a jack-o'-lantern this way. So if you're like, I don't want to take like 3 full days to do a skull, it'd probably take you a couple of days to get this, to kind of keep sculpting it down to something better. So I mean, if you don't want to take that much time, you could always do like a jack-o'-lantern. So I could go to Let's add some more segments to it. We can go ahead and convert it, and then I would probably like squash it, make it a little bit more jack-o'-lantern shape, and then you could go to sculpt, subdivide, 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 subdivide. Okay, and then I would just get your knife tool and carve some sections into it. I won't do an entire jack-o'-lantern either. You can be rough with it. Let's do one more section here. I might not be cutting it deep enough, but we'll see. Alright, and then going to inflate, and you inflate the pieces. I guess I did a pretty good job. Like you see over here, I don't have a piece there. I'll just do this. And you can even do pinch to like seal up that seam a little bit. Alright, and you can do like, you know, instant jack-o'-lantern. How would you get the stem out? You would just go to grab or pull and go to a little itty bitty guy, brush, and let's do itty bitty. More bitty there. You know, pull it out that way. You can carve a face in it, whatever, instant pumpkin. So that might look kind of cool if you want to give it kind of more of a Halloween theme, or if you wanted to make a scarecrow with a pumpkin head. I mean, there's all kinds of ideas here. I'll do a finer, like my skull. I'm going to say that skull super sucked, but it would take a lot longer. I can't do it as quick. It would take me like a couple of days to get that and make it look good with this limited sculpting. ZBrush, you'll see when we get to it, you'll be like, oh man, I could do a skull in like 10 minutes. But here, that's why ZBrush is the superior one. But I wanted to show you this because it's good in a pinch. If you don't want to like go back and forth between ZBrush, you can do some quickie sculpting in here and not have to go import it over to ZBrush and then export it from ZBrush back to Cinema or whatever modeler you're using. All right, so I'll see you in class. Those are just a few things. Next lesson, we will do fog and animation, how to animate. We're going to do this first person. So basically, we're going to do the fog and the moonlight, and then we're going to do our animation through our landscape. Very similar to the space animation, up to our house or down to our house or however you want to design it. Okay? And then we fine tune it. So we're like mostly through this. The key right now for you is getting a decent landscape, okay, going. You know, like we could go look at, before I head out, we could go take this off and put it on the default camera, and then I can kind of show you the landscape here. Let's put it on grouchy. Oops. Let's turn off the fog. The fog is getting in the way. Alright, so you can kind of see my landscape here. I have some dirty materials on it. Let's get rid of those, and we'll turn off the sun. So there it is. There's my landscape that I did for that one. There's my gate. There's my little ravine. I didn't do much of a haunted forest. I kind of got lazy. But this was just a sample anyway, so it wasn't a finished piece. Okay, so very similar, and then we're gonna do a lot more to it. I think I should revert this to save so I don't. Okay, so ta-da! Amazing. All right, see you in class. Bye, guys.